Good morning, friends and crafters. It's Diane, the Creative Inkster, and here I am holding the annual catalog. So that's what I look like because you're only going to see my hands. So welcome to day 2 of our amazing, wonderful one-sheet wonders on November 16th, 2024 with the Global Inspiration Stamp Team. We're really happy you're here. We're grateful that you took some time out of your Friday and Saturday to be here with us and have some fun. I'm going to keep an eye on the comments and see if some pop in. I'm not as familiar, but we're just going to do what we can. So my first thing I wanted to say is that my name is Diane. Inkster is really my last name. Couldn't be more perfect for being a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. And I'm in Guelph, Ontario, Canada, which is about an hour from Toronto, west of Toronto, in a small community with a university and a very thriving downtown area. I hope you're having fun and you've learned a lot. Please tell us in the comments on my video or any of the other videos what you've learned, what you've enjoyed, how we can make it better, all of that, because we enjoy putting these on for you every other month and we really appreciate your feedback. Did you place a seasonal catalog, annual catalog order? During the sale on the 13th, 14th, and 15th, I placed a couple, got lots of paper, and I'm all stocked up and ready to go again. And I just want to remind you that you'll receive our tutorial offer if you placed an order from November 13th out to the 24th with your demonstrator that invited you to this event. And for my customers purchasing from me, I've sweetened the pot a little bit with, during the 13th to the 15th, a free embellishment. So I guess unfortunately that's passed because that was yesterday. So my layout, I don't want to take too much time because my layout's going to take us making 12 individual cards, but my layout is with the Mediterranean Blooms Designer Series paper. So that's in the annual catalog on page 35, this gorgeous suite of paper here, and we're going to do the one with the oranges on it. I've made a set of the 12 cards, and I have a layout pattern for you to take a quick picture of. So those are the different sizes. I'm going to walk you through cutting your paper, and the number that's circled is the card number on which that piece goes. So we'll see that as we go along as well. So that is my one sheet wonder. It's 12 by 12. I apologize to those in not using the imperial measurements, but I don't have a conversion to metric. And then you have a small piece of scrap that's approximately 1 inch by 2.5 down here to use on something else. Alrighty, let's move this out of the view so I can get going on my one sheet wonder. So typically for this one, I feel, and many of them, that you want to use a smaller pattern or something that's at least got less white space. And so something like this is really perfect because it has different colors. Often a one sheet wonder works well if you're flipping pages from one side after you cut it to what's on the back. This is a blue pattern. I think it kind of looks black, but it's a blue pattern. And I found that I didn't do any of the flipping simply because I didn't like how the blue kind of coordinated with that. But that's fine. I love this paper anyway. So I'm going to grab my paper trimmer and we're going to start cutting. So looking at the template and using the 12 by 12, I'm going to cut off my first cut at 3 inches. So again, you're using a full 12 by 12. We're going to cut off fully at 3 inches. And I'm going to set that over to the side. And then I'm going to go across and I'm going to cut at 4 inches. And we'll do some more cutting of the pieces as we make the cards. So there's a 4-inch piece across. And then we're going to cut at 2.5. We should have a piece that's 5 inches left, so we're going to cut it in half at 2.5 along the long side. All right, so there's our 4 strips, 1, 2, 3, 4. Starting from the left, we're going to grab the 3-inch strip that's 3 inches wide. We're going to turn it 90 degrees, and we're going to cut it into a whole bunch of 3-inch by 3-inch pieces. So we're going to make 1, 2, 3 cuts. And before I get too carried away, I'm going to lay them back over here so that I know that they're my 3x3s. Just as I get going, I'm going to start putting these little sticky notes on them, and that's going to correspond to the template so I know which one goes with which card. Using the 4-inch one, we're going to cut it into 3 pieces, so these will be 4x4s. 1, 2. This is a really easy one-sheet wonder. You can use it pretty much, as I said, with any paper, but smaller without a lot of white space, I find is preferable, at least for me. Now we're going to take one of our 2.5-inch pieces across, and we're going to cut it at 5.5 once. Put that over here, and the piece that we have left, we're going to cut at 5.5 as well. And that's where you end up with this 1 by 2.5-inch piece of scrap. So we'll just put it out of view. We'll put the little sticky note on it that says scrap, so I don't get confused. And then our last piece, that's 2.5 inches wide, we're going to cut at 4. So we're going to make 3 pieces of 4-inch. Now it looks like it might be, oh boy, a rather simple kind of look, but wait till you see how the cards turn out. I'm thrilled with them. So I'm going to show them to you one at a time as we go through. All right, paper trimmer is done, I believe. So we are ready to put the numbers on our paper. So I basically kept this the same as if it had not been cut so that I can easily, and remembering that's where our scrap piece came out of, so I can easily refer to the cutting template and choose the right piece for the corresponding card. All right, back to the template here. So I'm just going to kind of lay this over the first half. I've made my little sticky notes. So number 2 is the top one here. I know you're probably going like, why did I not just go like 1, 2, 3? Because I didn't. The way I think I was starting to design it, and I've done this one before. So when you do these one-sheet wonders, keep them because it's very helpful for later when you want to grab one and just keep a little library of them going. All right, so 2, 8, 9, and 11. Then I'm going 1, 4, and 6. 1, 4, and 6. And then on the other side, these two here are 5 and 7. Let's try to move that out of the way. So 5, card number 5, card number 7, card number 3, 10, and 12. The original one that I had done this with had quite a flowy pattern across them. And so I think having the numbers in that order kind of made more sense. All right, a sip of caffeine to keep me going. Alrighty, here we are. And now all we need to do is just take them and put them in order descendingly because they're all marked and I'm ready to start working on my cards. I'll bring the sample in. Most of my pieces are prepared that are layers and such, so I will explain that as we go. Rightio. So here is card number 1. I've gone ahead and made 12 white card bases. I use thick basic white, so I cut it in half at 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. So I have 12 of those ready to go for my 12 cards. And I got my pieces prepped because I like to be organized. I'll also explain the different stamp sets that I use going over, but it doesn't really matter. Alrighty, so, oh, I put my card base in there. Alrighty, so here's my card base. I can set that aside. I embossed this layer here, which is 4 by 5 1/4, just a standard layer that you would put on your cards. So if you cut your 12 by 12 using imperial measurements, as I've shown, then you can just make these other layers as works for you. Alrighty, so we're going to add an embossed layer. Now this is the exposed brick. It is by far my favorite embossing folder, but be careful, I might say that again during this video on another one. But I love exposed brick. It goes with everything. So if you don't have it, you need it. Alrighty, and then I've got a piece here which is 4 by 4. And you'll see I made a note score at 1 inch. So what I would have done, had the back and front coordinated better, I would score it and fold it back so that I am showing two sides of the DSP, but I don't really like that with this one, so I'm just going to cut the 1 inch off. So it's 4 by 4, I'm going to cut the bottom 1 inch off, put that in the scrap pile and use it on something else. I did think, had I had the orientation of the card this way, I could have easily put it in there, and I still could probably. But let's not get overly complicated. Alrighty, so that's where our 3 by 4 is going to go down. You can do even more. You could add another layer to it if you want, and all you need to do is add it up by 1/4 inch on both sides. So you'd be 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. And then I punched out my circle with a 2 inch circle punch. I believe it's 2 inch. Yes, the 2 inch circle punch. And I'm going to use garden green ink. Nope, wrong. I'm going to use pumpkin pie. So I don't use pumpkin pie all year round. I tend to use it in the fall with pumpkin things. So it was really good to kind of use it, incorporate it in with this one here. So this is Layering Leaves, the stamp set that I'm using for the first few cards, and I'm going to use So Happy to Celebrate You. So look at this stamp set. It is loved. Okay, sometimes they don't stick down, and I need to give them a little washing so that my photopolymer stamps get clingy again. And that's all you do. If they start to go loose in your case, just take some soap and water over the sink, put something down so it doesn't slide down. And I tell you that because I lost the antennae from the Bumblebee stamp set down the drain. It was not happy times. Alrighty, so you take your, I'm just going to take this greeting. This fits, most of these layering leaves fit nicely on the 2 inch punch. So happy to celebrate you. I love this greeting. And I'm going to grab a couple of dimensionals and pop it up on my card. Now, what will I do with 24 cards when I'm all done? Well, my thank you cards, these will be thank you cards. So even though they don't always say thank you on them, I still send them out to my customers as thank you cards and just put a little thank you note inside. I have my bows already done for the various cards because I didn't want to struggle trying to do a bow online with you. So I'm just going to pop a little bow on here. I haven't used a lot of other embellishments except on one card near the end, but I would also maybe add some embellishments here. So there's card number 1. We're done. Tuck that away. Oh, I didn't think of a spot to put the finished cards. There we go. Card number 2 is this one. And so we are using the 3 by 3 piece, and we're going to cut it into 4 pieces. So we need to grab our paper trimmer and just cut it into 4 pieces. So it's 3 by 3. That means I need to cut it at 1 1/2 and cut those 2 pieces at 1 1/2. And I want to try to keep the pieces in the same orientation they were when I started before I cut it. It just makes it easier. You think you're going to know exactly where it was cut, but you don't. That's been my experience. So I get them back in the orientation. I like to do this a lot with paper, is I take a layer and I cut it up and then piece it back together, and I think it looks really neat. So here are the pieces that we need for this. We've got our pre-done card base and the So Swirly embossing folder. So I'm doing white on white. That can have a unique look as well, or any plain color on plain color. So we did that tone on tone look at my team meeting this past week, on Thursday in fact. And someone had said, I've never done tone on tone embossing on the layer, and it looks pretty nice. All right, so in order to put this guy back together, it was 3 by 3, but we need to account for the space in the middle and the space on either side. So I cut this pumpkin pie to 3 3/8, and I'm just going to, before I glue them down, take a little placement and just make sure that I'm getting them where I want to be. And I don't usually worry about the center because often my greeting will cover up that center. So if I'm a little off, that's the place to be off. All right, and again, if your paper was beautifully coordinated on the back side to the front side, somebody's probably going, what's wrong with the blue? I like the Night of Navy, but I just like these oranges too much. But you could like do two of the back sides and alternate them as well. And that is another way to dress this up a wee bit. Here we go. I hope you'll give this one a try. It's a great way to use up your 12 by 12 DSP. And who doesn't have lots left over? I should tell you my little story. So I've been a demonstrator for 14 years, this past week, in fact. And I have not really gotten rid of a lot of DSP. So I had it in boxes and boxes and boxes and after it retired and decided I need to deal with this because of course once the new stuff comes out, right, you forget all about the last catalog. Using Best Wishes from Layering Leaves. And so anyhow, I had it in boxes, I cleaned it all out and I gave it to my daughter. And I gave her a lot. And then I still kept all the single large sheets and filed them in sort of colors or patterns that matched or seasonal, and turned out great, but I still have a lot of leftovers. And so you need to do a one sheet wonder just to help get rid of them. Alrighty, we're going to add some dimensionals to the back of this guy. And I don't overthink those spaces in between. If you think it should be a 1/4 inch all the way in all spaces, it's going to be a much wider piece, but this allowed me to get it on its side on the card, and I thought that was kind of, whoops, cool as well. Let's clean this ink pad over. Here we go. So here's our card in this orientation, but I like that I could do this, being 3 3/8. And it kind of goes with the swirly look too. I'm going to pop this up, and I didn't center it. I went a little bit off center just for another look to it. And I think when I made my sample cards, I used the mini dimensionals because I was trying to finish off a pack. And but tell me, would you like minis or do you like the usual sized dimensionals? I do like the usual ones or the regular ones because I can cut them if I need them. I find getting into the minis is a little bit challenging at times. All right, for this one I chose a copper clay because I saw in the orange with the coloring that there was some really darker spots, and that kind of gave me something else to play with besides the green. These come from, oops, 2 packs on the go here. These come from the Natural Tones linen thread. This is in the mini catalog, the September to December. And so green and copper, and then obviously I need to do some cards with the navy, or flip this paper over. So that's where I got those from. And again, no embellishments other than that, but I think it looks really cute. That's card number 2, and we're done. On to card number 3. Going to do a little bit of cutting on this one. We're going to take our piece 3, and we're going to cut it on a diagonal. And it's simply corner to corner. So you kind of want to move your paper around to see, you know, what is the best orientation for this if you're going to put it on its side. Because we're going to cut it this way, and I think going corner to corner this way is going to work well. This would be a great one to flip the paper if you can and do it in a different orientation entirely. Alrighty, so our pieces for card number 3, we have, let's see, a card base in white and a few other pieces on the go here. So I think I'm going to be pressed for time to get through in an hour, so thanks for hanging with me. Ooh, there's my greeting. Okay, so here is the painted 3D did that in the layer in on the card base. So for me, it's 4 by 5 1/4. You could also go a little thinner for a different look if you like go 3 3/4 by 5. But I did I did 4 by 5 1/4. Alrighty, and then I did a lemon lolly layer on which I'm going to do this, and it kind of escapes in there, but that's okay. So in order to get these to be nicely matted, I made this piece. So the original piece is 2.5 by 4. So I made this piece of pumpkin pie 4 1/4 by 2 3/4. So just that 1/4 inch bigger, and I cut it corner to corner. I'll make sure I'm going to cut it the same direction. I think I can flip it, but it's Saturday. I'm not thinking math and measurements all that well. Okay, here we go. So it was just a 1/4 inch bigger, and then that helped me get it on there nicely. We're going to glue it on here. I like liquid glue. It allows me to wiggle it into place when I have not got it straight, because that happens sometimes. I don't know, does it happen to you? But if I were to use Stampin' Seal, it's a one and done, and I'd be tearing up the pieces. All right, and we're going to place these then. They could have gone directly on the card. I didn't even think about that. Maybe that's what I'll do for this one. Let's change it up on the fly. All right, we're going to add it right on here. I think it's because I wanted to make sure I could get it positioned well. So we're just going to jump in and make a change. So put some dimensionals on the backs of these. And that cuts down your paper a little bit. I think I had thought about using green as well, but it was like a lot of layers. And sometimes a lot of layers on cards makes them a little more expensive to mail. And here in Canada, we have a postal strike right now. I've actually decided that this paper looks way better in a vertical orientation. So I'm going to change this card up a little bit just because. And just going to do that to go with how the paper looks. I think I'm just going to carefully lift that and move it in a wee bit. There we go. Like that. And then I've got another 2-inch circle with some garden green ink, and I'm still using layering leaves, and this time I'm going to use Thinking of You. So I'm having lunch with a friend tomorrow, and I think I'd like to share some cards with her, and I think the Thinking of You card would be perfect to put on the front of it. So I'm sort of going to try to center it, clean it up and put it away. And then I will add some dimensionals because we do like to dimensionalize our stuff. And if that's too much, you can just glue it right down. Something you might notice between the regular dimensionals and the minis is that the minis are a little bit higher, just a titch taller. Not quite sure why, but they are. And then for this bow, I used these Baker's Twine options. Baker's Twine 3-color combo in the annual catalog with Lemon Lolly, Balmy Blue, and Calypso Coral, I think. Calypso Coral or Flirty Flamingo, I think. In any case, I used Lemon Lolly. I did a double bow. I'm going to stick it here with a glue dot. And there we go. That's card number 3 in a different orientation. Starting to turn out pretty nice. All right, card number 4 is this one. And we're going to use a full panel. I'm going to also show you a few little tricks of things that I like to do, or different ways I like to use my ribbon. You may have already seen them, but if not, this may be new to you as well. right, so we're using a 4x4 and we're not trimming it down. So we definitely want to look at the orientation, which typically I do use for a one sheet wonder. I choose paper that is not in a specific orientation. So just to avoid that issue. So on my card base, I have a layer. So this is 4x4 for our designer series paper. So I'm going to make this 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. So it's a tighter to the edge of the card layer. Other people I've noticed are doing a lot of going right to the edge of the card, so a layer that's exactly the same as the card base. Another option. But I want to get this stamping down here first. So I'm using Country Birdhouse. I went to my stamps and looked for something that was long and like a good inch tall. And I found this is one of the ones that I have. So whatever floats your boat. And it's hoping you have the best day ever. So that's cute. I like this greeting a lot. And in fact, I mail a card to my 2.5-year-old grandson every month. And he would love this too. Now he's at the point where he can open the cards with Mommy carefully and look at them. And so I often use like fun trucks and things like that, but this greeting would be a nice one that I would like to send off to my little Alistair. All right, so I've done the stamping first, and then I'm going to glue the paper on. And the reason for that is if I goof it up, I can flip my paper over and use the other side, because that's happened before. And we're going to tie the ribbon after. When you look at your cards and you're going to put your ribbon on, always check first to see, oh, am I going to wrap it around a layer before it goes on the card base or not? So that you're getting the ribbon on before you glued it down. Because we get busy and thinking different things. So I typically, with a knot, I will just take a piece which I just measure it around because it's going to go twice around, and I'll show you a different way to do ribbons on another card. So I go like twice around and then almost a third amount, and that seems to be enough to give me the knot on the other side once I turn it around. And when I do my knots, I do the left over right and under, and then I hold it with my finger, and then I go left over right and then the right under. But I do need a glue dot, so this is a trick that I tend to use. So grab a glue dot to hold it in place, because I only have 2 hands and it gets complicated to try to hold it and tie it all at the same time. So we will just put a little glue dot here where I want the knot to land. So left over right and under, and then I pull the pieces up and down. You see that? Pull them up and down the tails. And I push that in there, and then I go, and I do this so like just doing it that I forget that I have to explain how to do it. So left over right, and then the right one through. And then it lands fairly nicely for me, and I only have a little bit of snipping to do, so cut that well. Another really great tip, which somebody may put in the comments, is to cut it while it's still on the roll. It does help you save wasting any. Oh yeah, let's pop this guy up. Okay, I am on card 4, and it is halfway through my time. I need to get it together and get into gear here, or I'll just have to show you some of the bunch of ones that I did. Okay, card number 4, done. Alrighty, on to the next one, card number 5. I'm going to use a different stamp set. I'm using Heartfelt Hexagon with Sincere Sympathy, and it's over here. And my coordinating punch for Heartfelt is already punched out in my little piece. There we go. Good thing I cut cut all that ahead of time. Holy smokes. Alrighty, so I have my piece number 5. I made a little layer that is 1 smidgen wider, but the same length because it is 5.5. And if you ever layer it on and find that your cardstock and your DSP are not a nice match when you shore them up like that, but there's a piece sticking out, just take your paper snips and give it a little haircut. And then I'm going to put it on a green just to give it a little bit more depth to this 2.5-inch wide piece. And I've also in the past gone ahead and just cut a small strip and put them on either side if I was a little light on cardstock, but I have it here so I may as well use it. Grab my card base, glue this right down. So they're sticking out a little bit on the top there, so I think we need a little haircut. So use the green as a guide and use my paper snips, which are nice and sharp, to cut across the edge. There we go. And then pop this a little bit off center, just for some other kind of look, and I kind of shore it up that way. Now I have some gray granites, nope, wrong, smoky slate ink, and I'm going to put my greeting on a piece here, just a piece of scrap, and then grab my punch, hexagon matching punch, and I'm not punching the whole thing out. I'm going to punch to there, and then I'm going to grab my paper trimmer and cut off just for a different look. I thought about hand cutting this greeting, but because it's a sympathy card, one, I chose smoky slate as a lighter ink color. Oh, I glued that down without putting my thing. Did anybody see that? See me do that and go, no, you forgot to put your ribbon on. That's okay. We will change up this card. We will just add the bow. Let me find the bows that are already made. Okie dokie. Oh, okay. That's okay. Yes, back to the fact that I'm using smoky slate because it's a softer look and just, I think, a little bit nicer to go on the card. Where all the bows went? Oh, there they are. I see them now. This ribbon frays a wee bit, so perhaps not the best one for trying to leave on the front. So I will just grab my bow. What I had intended to do on here was take the ribbon and put it around here and secure it at the back and then just pop a bow on. That's how I got that look, but I think maybe this is what I will do on this one. And it looks lovely, and no one has seen the original, so when they receive the card, I think they'll just be pleased to receive the card. So card number 5, done. Card number 6, it's a stamp set, a stamp that I have not used much. I'm going to take my 4x4, I'm going to cut it into 4 1-inch strips. So paper trimmer out, 1 inch across. You can also do this with the cuts horizontally instead of vertically, depending on your paper. 3, 4, and then once again, I'm keeping them in the same order. Grab my bits. I'm going to remember not to glue it down. And I'm going to take my, before I put the ribbon on, that is, sorry, I didn't finish that thought. So this piece is 4 1/4 by 4 1/8. Oh, 4 1/4 and 4 1/4? Oh, even Steven. Should be 4 1/8. Wait a second. 4 1/8 tall by 4 1/4 wide. So you just want to get the right orientation before I start gluing stuff down. And we're going to leave a little wee border on all 3 sides. And sometimes this goes nicely and sometimes you get a little off center. If I was doing 3 pieces, I would do the left and right and then put the center one in last, so that if I was off a little bit, it would just look like it was planned that it would be a little bit more space in between the ones on the, between the middle one and the outside ones. But this way, by starting on one end and building it, I can cut off the cardstock should it not be a good fit, should it be too much left over on the right. And look at that, I think I lined it up fairly well today, so that's cool. I love the look of this cut paper, just like we did with the squares on one of the earlier cards. I love that look, totally. All right, so now we're going to take our ribbon, and another way that I like to use ribbon is to tie a knot rather in the middle. So this is just a little bit longer than I need, actually a fair bit longer than I need. And then decide where I want the bow to land, and I think this way I'm actually going to have it less on center. Fold this over. I have more than I need. And then I'll take a little tear and tape, or you can use Stampin' Seal, whatever you have handy. I'm a quick tear and tape person. And then I can attach this to the back. This is going to be glued down, so it's totally okay that it's got the excess there. And it's a little bit high, Diane. Let's move it down just a little bit. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. There we go. And cut off the excess so that you don't have that behind the card. How does that turn out? Pretty nicely. There we go. And grab our card base. We're going to pop that up. So because I'm popping it up, I'm also going to put a piece over those ribbons just to help give them a little more to hang on to. Did you pick up any time? No! Oh goodness. Okay, I'll get this piece on here. And then we're going to stamp our Mr. and Mrs. I think in the interest of time, I'm going to leave the stamping for now. You've seen me do that before. You know how to stamp. And I will add these on afterwards. But that is how you put that part of the card together. And I used a Heartfelt Hexagon, the stitched piece around here in one color, and the greeting Mr. and Mrs. in another. All right, card number 7. This one is going to involve a little bit of stamping on the card base, which in this case I'm going to just take a pass on, which is totally fine. But what I had done was use Citrus Blooms, which is the stamp set that matches the paper, and I did the little yellow flower across the top and along the bottom, not in the center because I didn't really need it. And so that is just you know, another way to kind of dress it up. And again, if you get this like this and the flowers or the whatever you're working with doesn't look like it goes in that orientation, you can switch it up. We're going to glue it onto a piece that is slightly larger. This is 2.5 by 5.5. We will put it on a piece that is 2 3/4 by 5.5. Just layer it up, shore it up. Oops. Stick it this way. I'm not going to put the stamping this time. I'm going to glue it straight down. And then we will call it pretty much done. And then I did my greeting with one of the dies whose name escapes me. But I'm using the stamp from Citrus Blooms, which is the one that matches this paper. And it's called, or it says, "You are the best kind of person," which is really sweet. And it fits nicely on this label. You can use whatever you have. Okay, and then on the back of this, I put a little bit of Stampin' Seal. And I'm going to create a little nest. Just a messy nest. So grab, I don't know how much this is. I ran it around my hands like this 4 times off the spool. And then you just kind of push it down. Just squish it down. You're going to play and fix it up afterwards. Okay, get the little stray ends to be in. There we go. And then, yeah, you're just making a little bit of a messy nest. Rather not messy there, I would say. didn't achieve that. And then you add some dimensionals to pop it up. Here we go. And that's how we add this one. And I'm going to put it over to the side. I will add a few little gems to dress it up a bit, but that is card number 7. Card number 8 uses a 3x3 piece right here and some more embossing. So this is the eyelet embossing folder. Good thing I'm not trying to watch comments because I'm trying to get through this. So there's my eyelet. Beautiful. So even though it's tone on tone and it's white on white, like it totally pops because it has all that dimension with your embossing. I think I use embossing on most of my regular cards. And then you take your 3x3, find the right orientation, and put it on a 3 1/4 by 3 1/4 piece of pumpkin pie in this case. And then to add a little bit of something, I cut some scrap 1/4 inch pieces of green, and I'm just snipping off the 2 little ends to put them on a bit of an angle. There's no rhyme or reason, there's no measuring for that. And then I will put them on the back here with my dimensionals. So I just want my angles to go in the same direction. Grab the dimensionals. I'm going to use my grid paper to line stuff up here. Put them a little closer together. Once again, no rhyme or reason to this. We're just adding some layers for some color breakup. Take a little, way a little of the blocked look. And put a couple more dimensionals so this can stay in place on the card. I like putting them in the corners so that I know that the corners are nicely anchored down. And then pop that onto the center of the card. And I have my stamp here. Back to Heartfelt Hexagon. I hope your day is filled with joy. That's one that I haven't used a lot. So we will add that. It's already punched out, but you do whatever you have for dies or punches. You see me always close my ink pads because I am notoriously messy and it would otherwise end up everywhere. All right, so we're down to the point where we need to use the edges. So as I go around, I just do a whole bunch of snipping. Some people, I've seen them do this at the beginning when they start with their dimensional sheet. I do it at the end. I hope your day is filled with joy. And a couple of little embellishments would finish that off nicely too. So card number 8. Card number 9. Oh, I love this technique. So it's going to go in the vertical orientation. I don't know what the screen's doing. There we go. And then I've got a piece of white, so white on white, but I'm going to dress it up a bit by using my scoring blade. So I would put this at a 1/4 inch, do it from the top, 1/4 inch, and go end to end, and then go at 1/2 inch. You can pick the interval you want. 1/4 inch, I'm going to do this on all 4 sides. And 1/2 inch, and a 1/4 inch, and 1/2 inch. And then a 1/4. And that adds, oh, I missed one, or I didn't do it quite dark enough, heavy enough. And that adds some really neat texture to the front of your card. And then I'm going to stamp my greeting, all the love from Citrus Blooms within that frame I've created. Up in the corner within that frame. Over there. And then I'm going to take the piece 9, which is a 3x3, and I'm going to put it off center with a piece of lemon lolly. Now the lemon lolly is slightly bigger. It's actually 3 1/4. And I originally wanted my designer series paper to be the evenly flat piece, but now I'm fine with them both being a bit higgly-piggly. So to get that, because the designer series paper is going to be having, the cardstock is going to stick out along the edges, I've just put a whole bunch of my adhesive in the center. I didn't want to get it on the edges. Okay, and then I've just got my white. And now I took 2 pieces, so the garden green and the lemon lolly, about the same length, 14 inches. And I'm going to tie a bow. I'm going to do it on the left side this time. I'm going to use that trick of using a glue dot again. Just grab a glue dot and put it underneath my knot, where I want my knot to land, to kind of give my fingers some freedom to tie the bow. So rather than one shade as a double bow, I've used 2 different ones. Just tidy this up a little bit. There we go. And then I'm going to add it onto the front, and both of those pieces are going to be a little bit off center, which is totally good. Put this on the back, pop it up. Pardon me. So remember that all the supplies list will be in the tutorial. That's something that you will get when you place your order with the demonstrator that invited you. You will get the full tutorial of all of the One Sheet Wonders, yours to keep, and all the supplies that we used. Come on back to check the videos, because I know this is a hard one to kind of follow along with and work with us. Okay, we have 3 to go. Whoa! We slid off the page just a bit with our glue. I'm going to just glue this 4 by 5 1/4 right down on front, and that is card number 9. Done. Card number 10. Some more embossing. This is the distressed tile one, and it's supposed to have spots that are not fully embossed as deeply as the others, so don't worry if it doesn't. And I'm going to put this peach ribbon around this layer. So you got to be careful when you put ribbon on an embossed layer, because the fibers are broken down on your embossed piece, so you don't want to pull too tight and have it tear. There we go. And it's a little bit popped up there, and I'm going to squeeze it out a bit. And jig it up a little bit too. There we go. And glue it down. So liquid glue is your friend when you're gluing an embossed layer. You'll find that there's so many little nooks and crannies it needs to get into to adhere. And so if you're finding that your layers are falling off, it's probably because you need to get into all of those little nooks and crannies. So I like liquid glue for that. I'll just trim this a little bit. And I've got my piece number 10 is 2.5 by 4. I'm going to put it on this way on a piece that is a little bit even larger. So this is 4.5 by 3. So I made a larger border on this one. just to offset all that white in the background. Okie dokie, artichoke. There we go. Glue that down because the bow is going to give you some height already on the card. So I just glued this straight down underneath. And then the greeting, the little hello. This is the postage dies, and I just cut it first and stamped it to be ready at a time here. And that's in peach, the peach pie. It's just a perfect size for that greeting. So that is card number 10. Card number 11, we are almost there. Much is done on this one for us ahead of time. Let's get our pieces out. So what I did with this one was I stamped the greeting first, and then I ran the layer through my embossing folder, and I used the Fern 3D, and you get that really neat effect of the words being embossed. So it's going to go in this orientation. We're going to glue this right down onto the front of the card. It's 4 by 5 1/4 as layers go. So if you've never done that before, it's kind of a neat technique to, add to your repertoire. And for this one, I took the 2-inch circle punch and I punched out of the center. And that's how I got this piece with a piece behind it. So when you have a 3-inch piece, it's roughly the width across of this size of punch. And I just kind of held it so it was mostly centered in there. If it's not perfect, I'm okay with that. And then I punched out, oopsie, a green circle that was 2 3/8. In hindsight, I wanted it to be a little bit closer, but I wanted to have some room in case my circle that I punched out wasn't centered. So then it gives me a little bit of wiggle room there. So glue that down, and we're going to pop this up on dimensionals. But we're going to glue the green circle on the front, and that kind of gives it the look of an extra layer, but you haven't actually used another piece of paper. So we will center this above our greeting. Yeah, it's a little off center. That's okay. And then we're going to match up the pattern. Let's see, where was the big green leaf? It came from here. Here we go. So we're going to match that back up. And so I'm going to put the glue fairly close to the edge of the green circle. Glue is gumming up a bit. Kind of close to the circle, but not going to squish out, hopefully. There we go. Big green leaf is there. And put it back on in place. And now I have, because it's a little bit bigger, I have a little bit of room to kind of get it centered again. Alrighty, and then we've got a yellow lemon lolly bow to add there. And I felt it was a little bare, so I'm using these Opal Rounds assortment, which I believe are in the Mediterranean bundle as well. And I'm using some of these sort of yellowy, sparkly ones. And so I'm going to add 2 of these to this just to round out the color scheme a wee bit. All right, so that is card number 11. Check it out. And card number 12, our final one for today. Like 12 cards in an hour, and it probably took me half an hour to prep the pieces, so it really didn't take super long. They're not overly complicated. So we're going to put our 4 by 5 1/4 inch layer. It's been embossed with birchwood, which is in the mini catalog, the September to December mini catalog, with the Winterly Treetops bundle. This is beautiful. lots of detail, and it's one of our big ones like the So Swirly and Dotted Circles, a nice big embossing folder. I'm going to put that down, and then we have our 12th piece right here, and we're going to glue that down on it on a sort of squiggly look. So it's offset set a wee bit, so I'm not going into the corners to put my glue. Just going to go like this. Press it down, and we'll add some dimensionals. So there's Maureen's coming up after me, and you will see her beautiful creation. I hope you'll give us comments. We really do love the feedback to know what you liked and what we could improve on and new things we could do if you're interested. So it's always good to have lots of feedback. I'm going to put it this way. And then for the greeting, I chose Early Espresso, as I did for the paper in here from the stems. And the stamp I chose is from a different stamp set entirely. Thank you so much. And I think, is the Simply Zinnia? No. Oh my goodness. I don't know where my thank you so much came from. Anyhow, you're going to have to just trust me on that greeting's just going to have to go on there. And actually, in fact, you know what? Let's do it. It's still on my block, the Sympathy. And I can hand cut this guy out too. I just wanted to show you hand cutting out a greeting. I've forgotten where that one came from. And so you just kind of follow along the lines. You do not want to get too close. And you want to hold your scissors basically, and you're moving the paper. And pull up here. I kind of needed to cut that extra bit off. And you'll find that sometimes you'll get to an area where it's more straight. And then go around and around. You can add little round pieces too to it for interest. There we go. With Sincere Sympathy, that will work just as well. Sadly, I always need sympathy cards. Lots of greetings to share with friends. And then I had a little scrap piece of the peach pie ribbon left, and it was perfect for doing a little knot instead of a bow. And just try to get that flat on there to lay down. So that is my 12th card. Wow, just in time. 2 minutes to spare. Thank you so much for popping in and checking out my One Sheet Wonder. I hope you'll give it a go. I'm going to bring the cutting template back in for you to get another glance at it, starting with a 12 by 12. There we go. And all the different pieces. And again, I use Mediterranean Blooms paper, but whatever floats your boat is what you need to go with. So thank you again. Hope you've enjoyed it. Please give us your comments. Say hi to Maureen, who's coming on after me, and a reminder to place your order by November 24th to get the full tutorial with supplies list and images of all the One Sheet Wonders. Have a great Saturday and enjoy the rest of the event. Bye for now.